1 hour before the State of the Union, we asked Colorado Senator on the Intelligence Committee what options the U.S. has left to combat Russia. An attempt to kick unaffiliated voters out of Republican primaries before they can nominate moderate candidates. A first-of-its-kind radio station from the inside out.
Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio is about to connect to all Colorado prisons and beyond.
And the latest change to Colorado driver licenses isn't anti-counterfeiting tech. It's inside you. I sound like a motivational poster. But all that is next. Who is to blame for the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Perhaps you'd say Russia. But the Colorado Republican Party says it's actually Democratic Senator Michael Bennet, who's up for re-election. They base this on the fact that Senator Bennet supported a sanctions plan against Russia that was put together by Democrats, but he voted against the sanctions plan proposed by Republicans. Ahead of tonight's State of the Union, politics guy Marshall Zellinger spoke with the senator.
The head of Colorado's Republican Party said you're partially to blame for what's happening. Why are you not to blame?
I didn't see that statement, but I think Vladimir Putin, a thug and a tyrant, is to blame here.
The U.S. response to the Russian invasion with economic sanctions has been called unprecedented. So if the conflict continues and the U.S. has made unprecedented decisions never been done before, what's left?
Well, what's really important, I think, and really unprecedented has been the global cooperation that's been led by the United States of America, I'm proud to say. And I don't think Putin was expecting to see this kind of resolve. And probably what he's expecting is that we're not going to be able to hang together. I think he will see that we will hang together and that the United States next week will be passing almost $4 billion worth of aid to Ukraine. Next week, I expect us to pass the aid that I mentioned earlier, and then we'll have to consider what else there is to do.
Democratic Governor Jared Polis took time in his statement last week on the Russian invasion to say Congress needs to suspend the federal gas tax, with gas prices expected to climb. Should that be something Congress considers right now?
I definitely think we should consider that, and we should consider a whole host of things to try to lower prices.
What do you say to people who believe this Russian invasion requires American boots on the ground or perhaps nukes in the air?
I strongly disagree with that. I think that, you know, we are doing the right things by marshaling the world's democracies against this tyrant, this thug in Russia. And what we have to do is we can't let up. I do not support American troops on the ground in Ukraine, no.
When I asked about the federal gas tax and suspending it, he brought up the administration keeping a waiver in place to allow truck drivers to spend 2 more hours on the road because of a truck driver shortage as a way to lower costs by keeping commerce moving. And he hopes the president will talk about those kind of cost-saving measures tonight at the State of the Union. Republicans, based on the statements we've seen here in Colorado, I'm sure would rather hear more about how we're going to no longer depend on foreign oil.
Yes, drill, baby, drill. It's interesting, though, when you had that conversation with Bennet about what options we have left, the Associated Press is reporting that the president, in 57 minutes from now, is going to announce that Russian planes are no longer welcome in U.S. airspace. It's one of the few options we have left.
He did not want to get into that. He thinks being tight with the other countries and having these sanctions and being firm in that will do. And I didn't get anything beyond that from Bennet.
I think too often the conversation's gotten crystallized into either, well, the U.S. is doing this or the U.S. is doing nothing. The U.S. doing nothing allows an option for other people to do something. We'll see if that becomes kind of a third point of conversation. All right, Marshall, thank you. So there's a new lawsuit trying to block unaffiliated voters from participating in Colorado's Republican primaries. This push is coming from the far right of the party, which says the way to bring the state GOP back from its low point of power since World War II is to run more conservative candidates, not more centrist ones. Lead lawyer on the lawsuit is former CU visiting scholar John Eastman, who wrote the Trump team's outline on how to overthrow a Democratic election. Eastman lost his position at CU following the January 6th insurrection. The lawsuit in Colorado claims that Republicans' constitutional rights are violated by allowing unaffiliated voters to participate in a party primary of their choice. The Colorado Republican Party, we should say, is not one of the plaintiffs suing the state. The plaintiffs do include Republican State Representative and Senate candidate Ron Hanks, who called on foreign governments to intervene in the 2020 American election to stop Joe Biden from becoming president. Right now, Louisville City Council is discussing building code requirements for the rebuild after the Marshall Fire. A relatively new green building code will cost homeowners more when they rebuild. The city could keep, repeal, or change those rules. Last October, before the fire, the city adopted a new building code requiring new buildings be built with electrical vehicle charging stations and the ability to support solar panels. Up the road in Superior, where 378 homes were destroyed, rebuilding residents have been exempted from some stricter building codes. City of Aurora is now one vote away from a ban on homeless camping, despite deep disagreement over whether bans, like the one in Denver, actually does any good. Aurora's new conservative majority city council is on board with the idea. Our Steve Steger talked to researchers who examined whether sweeps help people out of homelessness.
I think it stems from, people are very uncomfortable with visible poverty.
Poverty that has only become more visible over the past 2 years, fueled by the pandemic.
Until we sort of grapple with that, I think we're going to see a lot of outcry from people saying, do something about this. And it's easier, right, to pass an ordinance and criminalize it than to actually find ways to help people who are unhoused.
Nantia Ruan is a professor of law at DU who's worked with her students to specifically research homelessness and the laws that impact those without a place to stay. That includes urban camping bans.
We found that the cities were spending far more on enforcing the ordinances as opposed to helping those who are homeless.
Even with that finding, Aurora City Council took an initial vote Monday night to create its own camping ban, modeled off the one that allows sweeps on neighboring Denver streets.
This will not solve all of our issues with homelessness in Aurora. However, I think it is one tool in the tool belt that we can use because our current status quo is not working.
So it's not really solving or addressing the issue of unsheltered homelessness in the community. It's really moving the problem from one location to another.
Lauren Dunton is a researcher who studied homeless encampments for the federal government.
A lot of it comes down to a lack of affordable housing.
Aurora city leaders say they are more than 7,500 affordable housing units short. Dunton says her research has found that the best solution is allowing service providers to work with people living in encampments, getting them connected with services and housing. Simply pushing them out with little notice damages that.
If they are displaced quickly, they often lose track of where those people have gone, and those relationships are broken, and then they can't work with them to get them into housing.
Through her study of encampments, Dunton told me she's found many people in them are originally from the community where they're camping, which dispels a common misconception that many people are coming in from out of town. Aurora leaders have suggested a provision that would stop them from enforcing this camping ban if there are no shelter beds available at the time that, say, an officer were about to give a ticket to someone, Kyle.
And through our reporting on this over the years, Steve, we do know that there's a subset of the population experiencing homelessness that even if there are open shelter beds, they're going to choose not to take them.
There's a lot of concern over, hey, all my possessions are here and I can't bring them all with me to a shelter. There's concern over maybe you have a partner and you're being directed towards a shelter that's a men or women only shelter. There are a lot of difficulties, even sobriety. Someone who may have a drug problem, sobriety may be a requirement to be inside a shelter. All of those may stop people from going and taking that extra step, which is why a lot of advocates have suggested the idea of safe outdoor sites, which are happening in Denver and Aurora.
And when we talk about the strategies here, there's an unspoken strategy, which has actually been studied as well, which is the idea that if one city is mean to the homeless, they might just go down the road to a different city.
Yes, and actually that the studies show that a lot of people who are moved, if not most of them, in fact, one recent survey found about 70% of people said, when I get moved out of a campsite, I'm just going to go and camp somewhere else. And the fear of a lot of advocates is when you push people away from where they're camping, you're going to push them further away from services that might actually help them break the cycle.
Steve Steger, thank you. So Denver voters gave a police oversight board the power to pick the city's independent monitor, and with their first selection, they have chosen no one. Citizen Board rejected all 3 finalists sent their way, so now they're going to restart the search to find someone to be the watchdog over the Denver Police and Sheriff's Departments. We're getting some feedback tonight about Colorado's Attorney General suing the companies that manufacture firefighting foam, which contains toxic forever chemicals. Aqueous film-forming foam has been widely used to fight fires over the years. That foam contains so-called PFAS, or forever chemicals. They're called that because they stick around in our environment and they accumulate in living things, including human bodies. A viewer named Michael reached out to us wondering what alternative firefighters have to using that foam. That is an excellent question. Denver Fire Department says they've actually been changing over from the aqueous firefighting foam to a new foam over the last few weeks. The new product is called Universal Green Fluorine-Free Foam. Has no added PFAS and has gone through a chemical hazard assessment to make sure that it doesn't damage human health or the environment.
This gives me a little glimpse of value as a human being again, to connect to the world.
A chance for inmates to make healthy connections is also a way for outsiders to look inside prison walls, or at least listen. And the newest addition to Colorado's driver licenses hasn't been approved yet, but dare we say, smile? That's next. Tonight's next question comes to us from Vicky in Highlands Ranch, who reached out after our story about all the hidden anti-counterfeiting features on the new Colorado driver licenses.
I was wondering, with the rollout of the new driver's license, will we be able to have our pictures in color, and can we smile again? Thank you.
Excellent questions, Vicky. So the photos on the license will be in grayscale, not color. And the state tells us that's because they're easier to laser engrave on the card. Colorado's DMV says that'll help enhance people's facial features for people checking licenses, makes it harder to fake them. Colorado's smile ban for driver's license photos still holds. But, and this would be big news, DMV says it's reevaluating the policy and may allow us to smile. They say they want to make sure that smiling in these photos doesn't negatively affect the federal Real ID compliance and any fraud preventions that they have, but they're taking a serious look at it. Couldn't get a timeline out of them on when we might be able to cheese it again in our photos. But keep the questions coming. If you're wondering, somebody else out there is too. Record a video just like that and email it to next@9news.com and we'll go in search of an answer.
Sunshine and 70s for the start of March, our snowiest month. We might be in record high temperature territory as well ahead of a Friday storm and chance for snow. Officially 69 at the airport, but 72 downtown and 70s across eastern Colorado. We could go warmer tomorrow as high pressure will keep the storm track to the north. The storm looming off on the horizon in the north and west will be here Friday night into the weekend. But southwest winds ahead of it will push us back into record territory. Temperatures are going to run in the low to mid 70s with just a few high clouds coming in the afternoon. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, 71. The record is 74. We have a warm day Thursday, increasing clouds Friday with rain and snow showers into Saturday morning. Cloudy and colder with snow for the weekend and highs in the 30s and 40s.
The people in charge of renaming some of Colorado's geographic locations that currently have racist names are asking for everybody's input. It appears they're out of names. They're looking to rename 28 different mountains, creeks, canyons, passes, and gulches. A mountain in Clear Creek County, south of Idaho Springs, was renamed last year for this very reason. A slur was replaced by the name Mistahet Mountain. It's named after Owl Woman. She was the wife of William Bent, owner of Bent's Fort, trading post in southeastern Colorado. Mistahet was an interpreter and a mediator between Native Americans and white traders and soldiers. The Colorado Geographic Naming Advisory Board is looking to do the same thing, rename 28 other features whose names currently contain a slur. And that's where you come in. They're looking for public recommendations. So we've posted a link to where you can chime in on 9news.com. Any suggestions other than Mountie McMountface are welcome. What's done cannot be undone.
I just do my part and help build because how much I've destroyed directly and indirectly in the past. So.
The sound of rehabilitation in a prison on the Eastern Plains. Next. The Esplanade outside Denver's East High School, which I only point out because I like to say the word Esplanade. The Colorado Department of Corrections made history today with what they say is the first ever statewide radio station produced inside prisons and broadcast all over. The station's program of the University of Denver's Prison Arts Initiative. Our Katie Eastman was at Lyman Correctional when they launched.
For about 60 seconds with the launch of Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio.
From the outside, Life in the Lyman Correctional Facility is hard to imagine.
This is my office. This is my grandkids, my girl, and my granddaughter. I gotta have them right next to me so I can. That's kind of my mission statement right there.
But even though Anthony Quintana took a life 3 decades ago, his goes on, even when he didn't know what kind of life it could be.
When I first came to prison, you're gonna get me emotional here. I didn't have a lot of hope. And now I'm blessed with so much.
That hope comes from a shared purpose.
Right now, I'm editing to get the show ready.
Inside Wire is the new Colorado prison radio station that will allow the outside world to not just imagine what it's like here, but really know.
Being locked away, you lose that. You lose that human connection.
Everyone out there who is listening.
Inmates at Lyman, Sterling, and Denver Women's pre-record, produce, and edit shows to air at all hours.
We just try to do the best that we can in growing and maturing as men, as well as citizens of society that will be returning. And
life doesn't stop behind bars.
Ladies and gentlemen, Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio is about to connect to all Colorado prisons and beyond.
Turn up the volume higher.
There is hope that a purpose in here turns into an impactful life out there.
This gives me a little glimpse of value as a human being again, to connect to the world. Radio!
Katie Eastman, 9 News.
The 14,000 or so people who are incarcerated in Colorado can tune in through the Department of Corrections closed-circuit TV network. Anybody else can listen to Inside Wire at coloradoprisonradio.com, coloradoprisonradio.com. Current lineup has music shows and features on what life is like inside prison. It's a sign of the potential for some entertainment while you sit in construction traffic. That and your feedback on driver's license smiling. People went to the DMV today. They have feedback next. It's a sign of something odd in the traffic up ahead. Jim was driving 71st Avenue in Greeley last week when he saw this sign and thought, oh, that's cool. There's going to be like flaggers doing somersaults and cartwheels and stuff like that. No such thing. Apparently they were just standing there all normal like. Jim was very disappointed, but whatever. Send us the signs you see in your neighborhood, anything that gives you a laugh on an otherwise boring day. Email next@9news.com or give us a shout on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext. Let's talk driver's license smiles. It's the only thing you want to talk about in feedback today. Jeanette says, just got driver's license renewed today. We were allowed to smile. The state told us that they were examining a return of smiles on licenses, but they didn't say it was official yet. But then Chris wrote and said, I got my driver's license renewed today. Could smile, but no teeth. Like one of those. And Hannah sent me a picture of her old style license in which she's cheesing like a toothpaste commercial. Maybe it's place by place.